Good evening, everybody. So yeah, I figured it was time to do another video where I actually go back to Vice City. Before I begin, I just wanted to mention that some of you may not actually be familiar with the game, and the reason why I personally consider it such a masterpiece. I could go into all of the certain elements that I won't actually be able to illustrate or put into the soundtrack because of copyright issues, but just the radio stations alone and the music they managed to get licensed for in order to kind of give you a good feel of what it's like to be in the time period of this game, which is the middle of the 80s in Miami. It was just very impressive. But I also want to mention the really cool cast that they got for the voices. So you can see here, this is the IMDB, that's the Internet Movie Database, for those of you who might not know what it is. I'm sure most people probably do know about the IMDB by now. So here's the cast, and you can see obviously you have Ray Liotta as your main character, Tommy Vercetti, William Fichtner, who's the lawyer that you're constantly dealing with. Unfortunately, he mostly exists only in the cutscenes, so probably I won't be able to show a lot of those because they're just time consuming. And again, I want to avoid any strikes that I could. Tom Sizemore is Sonny. He's kind of an antagonist in this story. Dennis Hopper, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. Burt Reynolds, Luis Guzman, awesome actors. Philip Michael Thomas, and now you're talking, guy who was actually in Miami Vice, which was a huge influence on this game. Robert Davi, also, he's been in so many things, so many movies that I have enjoyed. He's a great voice. Danny Trejo, Trejo is just the coolest, you know that. Gary Busey, Lee Majors, such an icon from the 80s, Fairuza Balk, she's awesome as Mercedes, and she's just so sweet and yet seductive, and really fun character. And there's a few other people down here that I don't necessarily know so well, but of course you have Debbie Harry makes an appearance, Blondie. Jenna Jameson, there's a bit of her voice, so really impressive, so to speak, resume of character voice actors. So yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and flip over. I'm going to apologize in advance if the video of this doesn't look the greatest. I'm using my camera to film my TV screen. This is a 46-inch Sony, kind of an older LED monitor, which is how I display my computer, all of my game consoles, and even my work laptop goes into this. But yeah, I still haven't really found an effective way to be able to record all of that sort of stuff and put it together. So I'm just going to have to shoot the screen, so to speak. Hope you don't mind. So I've been getting a lot of requests to do gameplay and an actual playthrough. So I figured it might be fun to go ahead and do some of the missions. So I have a saved game here from in the beginning, which is just sort of the very beginning of the game. I'm going to go ahead and load it. And as I said before, I'm going to avoid showing a lot of the cutscenes for missions and so on. I'll show little bits of it here and there. I'm also going to have to avoid playing radio stations and stuff wherever I can, because again, you know, no need to be getting into too many problems with YouTube's copyright issues. So, okay, so when you first get into the game,
hello, Sonny. Tommy, it's been too long. I know, you're just overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah.
15 years.
Suffice to say that right from the beginning of the game, things are very tense between you and Sonny, because obviously you start off the game after a deal gets totally messed up and you lose the money and the merchandise, so you have nothing. So yeah, not a good position to start off in. As you can see, the first thing that you end up starting from is the Ocean View Hotel. Here we go. And that's kind of where you have your room, and it's also a safe house, so you can save your game there. I have no money, no belongings of any kind, so normally at this point of the game I would spend some time collecting hidden packages. Here, let's get a nicer car and let's drive away very fast because there was a cop standing there. Yeah, which is why. Basically, if you avoid a 1-star level, will eventually fade if you just drive away. Oh. I'm not sure why I'm getting a lot of blurry textures. I hope that doesn't look too bad for you guys, but anyway, normally I would spend the first bit of the game gathering hidden packages because that translates to weapons and body armor and so on starting to regenerate in your hotel room, and eventually it also regenerates at certain properties that you own. But you kind of have to wait until there used to be a bug in the game, and it's certainly present in the version I have, where if you didn't collect all of the hidden packages first and then start buying properties, then the rewards would not regenerate at some of the properties. So anyway, so first things first, you have to go see your lawyer. And this first mission basically kind of serves as an introduction to the characters of the game. So essentially, let's go ahead and skip this. I'm so sorry. I hope if you're interested in this game, you might be able to find a way to play it. And I believe there's versions of it out there you can play for free now. So yeah. I'll go ahead and show you one thing which is cool, is that there's this brief. The brief is a written kind of thing that sort of explains what your next mission is. So is there more to it than that? Basically, he tells you to take this invitation to a party where you get to go meet a whole bunch of people that are influential in the city. But he says, this isn't going to be a beer and strippers do. Basically that the jeans and Hawaiian t-shirt are not going to be adequate for the occasion. So he says, before you go to the party, you need to go and get some new clothes. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and do that. And here you can see there's this mini map that kind of gives you a sense of direction, and it'll give you an icon right here, which you see is this t-shirt, but it essentially just means that you need to go get some clothes. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it's basically right down the street. And as you can see in Vice City, I don't really obey any of the traffic laws. I just drive wherever because the police really don't pay any attention to that. Alright. So now I'm dressed properly. Now, the game suggests that you commandeer that bike, but you really don't need to, necessarily, and I usually don't. And then, of course, it says, go get to the boat. Okay, so now you can see there's this pink marker right here to kind of indicate where you're headed, if you don't know. But also, if you're ever in the game and you want to see where you're supposed to be going, there is the map to look for if you want. And the map allows you to zoom in also. But anyway, I already have a little shortcut through this alley. I'll try not to run over any pedestrians on the way. Okay, so here's you're headed to this nice yacht on the waterfront. You can see, since it's a party, there's already a lot of nice cars parked out front, including the stretch limo. And you can kind of see over there in the distance that yacht in the background with the red trim on it. That's where you're headed. I'm going to go ahead and show just a little bit of this cutscene because there's some interesting perspectives and so on. I really like this maid or whatever. She's dressed sort of like a sexy maid or something.
I understand you are here on the behalf of Mr. Rosenberg. I hope any recent problems have not affected his health or mental well-being, Mr.
Rossetti. He's just got a touch of agoraphobia.
Excellent, excellent. And you?
I just want my merchandise.
It's an unfortunate set of circumstances for all involved. Of course, I have initiated my own lines of inquiry, but such a delicate matter will take time. Perhaps we'll talk later. Meanwhile, let me introduce you to my daughter. Mercedes!
Here comes Firuzabalk.
Maria, could you look after our guest while I attend to my necessary obligations?
Of course, Daddy.
Please, excuse me.
Mercedes?
You try living. Anyway, let me point out something.
Okay. Moving on. We meet some of the characters. One of them, who she doesn't like, tries to come up and strike up some conversation, and she makes an excuse that they were just leaving. So she says, get me out of here, take me to the pole position club. Let me see. Is my car still here? No. So we will just take this yellow Lamborghini.
It's okay.
Will you be working for my father?
Maybe.
Do you mind me resting my hand in your lap?
Maybe.
It's so difficult having a rich and powerful father. Vamos.
Alright, here we go. I am going to drive by this cool house I always love. When I'm just messing around in the game, I always think, you know, this would be a fun beach house to have right there. It's neat. Anyway, let's go. I have to drive very carefully because, yeah, get to the pavement. Here we go. All right. And then you just turn here. No problem. Piece of cake. Pole position club.
See you around, handsome.
I'm sure you will.
Okay, simple enough. Now you can see that the L for the lawyer has popped back up on the minimap, so, oops, I seem to have lost my perspective on driving backwards here. I'm not sure this actually makes a difference to go to the next street over, but hopefully it'll be a nice direct route. As you can see, some nice Art Deco architecture. Alright, and a little another shortcut. Okay, now, one trick with Vice City: to make sure your car doesn't get deleted. When you step out, leave the door open. Alright, back to the lawyer's office.
Well, I hope you're having a good time, because I'm going out of my mind with worry here. What did you find out? That there are more criminals in this town than in prison. We need a lead from the streets. Okay.
Anyway, that's a funny line. So next we have to do some bouncing around town to basically see if anybody's heard anything about how the deal went sour, and if anybody seems to be acting like they were the ones that benefited from it. So partying, spending a lot of money and things like that. So there's this guy that hears a lot of rumors in the city, and you gotta go talk to him. Unfortunately, he's kind of a douche, but that's where I'm headed now. So now we go to the Malibu Club, which is modeled after the club in Scarface. I'm sorry, I haven't watched Scarface in a while, although I do have, there's a 4K version of Scarface that's coming out, or is out, and I'm just getting around to eventually adding it to my collection. So yeah, you can see the interior of this club.
Looking for some English guy. Ken Pole. Yeah, I'm the governor, and they all sort things out.
So he comes up and kind of spoils this guy's macking on that girl, and then demands a little information, and now I gotta go find this guy who's hanging out. Oops, sorry about that, excuse me. But the game brief kind of, the thing with Vice City is a lot of things are a little bit flexible when it comes to the missions. The game brief says that you're supposed to go talk to this guy, and then you eventually do end up kind of having to rough him up. Well, I often don't bother with that, since you're going to rough him up anyway, and the cutscene that results is the same regardless. You just send the car right over him, and that ultimately this is all you're after, is the cell phone. But even though I didn't actually get in a fight,
Beat him to a pulp. That should make him real chatty. You want some too? Hey, chill. I want what you want, brother. Oh, yeah? And what's that? Your green and my dead brother's white label. Unfortunately, you just silenced our lead. Accidents happen. Get lost. Hey, whoa.
anyway, he ends up being another character who you're not really sure if you can ever really trust him or not. But he did just hand you a gun. But there's no real point in engaging those guys. You just kind of run away. This mission is all about going and finding the gun shop. So you get in the car.
One thing you gotta realize about this town, you gotta pack some heat. Local gun shop is a couple of blocks away.
And here we are in Miami Beach. Very nice. Again with the Art Deco architecture. So there's probably a more direct route to get to the gun shop, but this is nice and easy. You just follow this curved road around, and then turn when you see the fountain. This Lambo is kind of delicate with the handling. It's really easy to spin, so I'm... Yippee. Okay, great. So that's it. When I'm in a hurry, though, I almost always ding up his car quite a lot before I get back to the hotel. So